down right now. Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Vancouver. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Bueller, and we're all set for the semis. Randy, GCB, that's Gabe Carleton-Barnes. You see him on the left-hand side of your screen there. He's playing against Jeremy Dezani. Gabe just played what had to be a mentally exhausting quarterfinal match against Eric Severson.
Well, here's the thing, though. It ended with a big surge of adrenaline.
Okay, you think he's just riding the wave?
It ended with him taking a lap of the room, exchanging high fives. He got a bathroom break. He got enough time to sort of catch his breath. I think if this one goes long, he's going to be destroyed mentally.
Okay.
But right now, I think the adrenaline's probably coursing plenty well enough to keep him sharp.
All right, so we'll see now. His opponent, Jeremy Dezani, you'll know him, Player of the Year, and he's got a reckless cohort to start things off. Let's see if GCB has an answer, and in fact he does. And this is actually really bad for Jeremy if he doesn't find an ally now.
Must attack. He didn't get all the allies he wanted. He has some dorky non-allies in his deck.
I think this is an Akum Flameseeker,
yeah,
which would fit the bill. Okay. So his cohort is safe from from running right into that Nirkana Assassin. But no attacks, right? So GCB clearly is going to be the control player in this matchup, as Jeremy Dezani is going to look to be the aggressor with his red-white allies deck. And Gabe, we got a chance, if you're on the stream with us live here, to see pretty much every card out of his deck. Yeah, he had 3 left when he won the game. Here's Transgress the Mind. Let's see if what it hits. Jeremy, of course, comes from France. Gabe, he's lived in various cities around the United States. He settled in Portland, Oregon, so not too far from here. It's about 6 hours or so. Yeah.
I wonder if he drove or flew.
I would not be surprised at all if he drove up with a with a cohort.
Right, with the crew, the draft crew.
Yeah. You know, I saw one of them, Seamus. He's done some writing for us, and he said he just aged 2 years watching that quarterfinal match.
Yeah, I can't get that game out of my head. I mean, it was long and it was exhausting, but it was awesome.
It was great. It was one of the better limited games I've ever seen. I mean, it was definitely on the top 10. I was sitting down there in the feature match area just sort of checking it out, and it was incredible. One of the swingiest games, too. I've never thought, all right, 90% are here, and then all of a sudden
90% the other way. It swung 3 times.
It did. It had full, like, this game's over, right? Like, people in the chat were like, GG, see you next time, whatever. And that happened 3 different times. It was insane.
Brian David Marshall described it as the most GCB game possible.
The GCB-iest?
Yes, the GCB-iest.
It was that. Yeah. I've known Gabe for a while. You know, he does come up to the Seattle area to play in our tournaments. And, well, to win them, to be honest. And I certainly know his style. I've also had him on my podcast, so.
Nice.
I mean, he's an excellent player.
Oh, yeah. He's got 12 PT Day 2s. No, you know, no top 8s at the Pro Tour. But a dozen Day 2s is not a small number.
In the meantime, it looks like Dezani's going to activate his Flameseeker and then follow that up with Valakut Predator.
Yeah.
He did get rid of a mountain in that sequence, but you can see in his hand from this angle. He's got a backup, yeah. Back to Gabe. Those of you who watch Grand Prix coverage will also recognize Gabe. He's done some stints in the booth with us here as a commentator. So no land here for Gabe Carleton-Barnes. And this could start to catch up with them here.
Well, yeah, we'll see what kind of trick he's got for the Predator.
We know what he has here. He's got Gideon's Reproach. And that works.
Yep.
There is a world where he takes a lot of damage that turn anyway, but it wasn't this one. And it's going to be allied reinforcements as the follow-up for Dezani. And, you know, I got to say that while Dezani's doing a reasonable job of building out his board, that Nirkana assassin is putting in overtime here.
Yes.
And there's land number 4 for Gabe. 2 3s for
Another 2-3.
Warden of Geometries now for Gabe Carleton-Barnes, and he
Bunch of 2-2s on one side, bunch of 2-3s on the other. I know which side I like.
shrugs and ships the turn back.
Yeah, it's the 3-2 is actually the most powerful thing going on here, probably. Dezani's just able to go through his deck and find the good stuff.
That's right.
He does have some good stuff.
You said you got the vibe that he wasn't super happy with how the deck came together?
We watched his deck, and
Mhm.
he really wanted to be black. He took a couple of Vampire Envoys really, really early. He also passed the Tazri that got GCB into white. So his white was a little dry in pack 2 because he chose to take Press into service over Tazri, first pick, first pack. But then wound up in white anyway. So, yeah, he just didn't have as many looks at good cards as he might have wanted. And so, you know, he's got Valakut Predator. He's got, Felidar Cub. He's got Kozilek Sentinel in his red-white allies deck. You know, these are all playable cards, but they're not powerful or synergistic
no, they're
cards.
not. That's right. And really, these type of decks do rely on that. You know, I mean, the synergies are what makes these cheap creature decks work. Because otherwise, you just get outclassed once turn 4, turn 5, turn 6 starts coming along.
Oh, Reckless Cohort choosing to go into battle. GCB's like, all right, I don't want to know what it is. We'll find out later when I have mana untapped what trick you're up to.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting for GCB because even though both creatures look kind of on his board, one's an ally, which is going to... He is playing a cohort deck in many ways, so he needs that ally. And then the Warden of Geometries gives him mana, and he needs that too after having missed a land drop. So he'd rather just take the 2 damage rather than let one of his creatures die to a combat trick of some sort and keep things moving forward here as far as his board state goes. It's good resource management by GCB here. This is a big turn for him.
It is.
Look at Jeremy's board. It is really big. There's a Zada's Commando now as well on the board for Jeremy. All right. Shoulder to Shoulder is going to draw Gabe a card and also get a couple of counters on both of his creatures, which, you know, I mean, they were good blockers before. Now they can block anything that Jeremy throws up to them as far as the board state goes currently. Is there a follow-up play here for Gabe? Maybe a land drop? He also could consider attacking with the Warden of Geometries here.
Does have Vigilance.
Yeah, he decides not to. There is a risk level with it.
Yep. I mean, Jeremy telegraphed that he has a combat trick last turn, and there's a first striking untapped blocker.
Exactly. Also, Gideon's Reproach is a thing, so yeah. It's tempting to just sort of fall into the autopilot mode of like, well, it has, you know, it's a free roll, I'll just attack, but I like the no attack there from Gabe. Wow. Yeah, he is getting a lot of value out of that Flameseeker. It has discarded 3 or 4 lands.
Mm-hmm.
Kept his hand pretty spell dense here. There's only 1 land left in it. That's a McKinney Aeronaut, which can get in, but not well.
No attack.
It's still just 1. Yeah, no attack here. Gabe looks like he has stabilized. Now, the engines that he can get running here to help propel him into the late game are mainly life gain engines with Ondu War Cleric. And he can also find... Wow, he just shoulder to shouldered again, Randy. I don't think that's really what he wants, so he's going to do it. He's also got... let's see what he hits. All right, he plays a Swamp here. I think he's still just on the go plan.
So from the fact that Jeremy chose not to attack once those creatures became 3/4, I think that means his trick was Searing Light.
I think the stream might be down. We'll be if you're still with us, we're just going to keep commentating along, and if we're not, then we'll be back as soon as humanly possible. Yeah.
Yeah, Dezani going wide.
Okay, so let's just keep trucking along. Our stream's currently down, but it's going to be back up in just a minute. But as far as this goes, Randy, we
Hello
can
to
just
those
keep
of you
trucking.
watching the recording later.
Yeah,
right?
hello there, YouTube viewer. so yeah, basically, Gabe is looking to set up these late game engines and try to overpower Dezani, while Dezani's trying to get Gabe dead before he gets a chance to actually do that. And right now, Gabe has done a good job of holding back here, and he's going to look for a Malakir Soothsayer and an Ondu War Cleric at some point to gain him life and draw him cards and push him over the top in the late game.
That's Feldar Cub and is it Sidemaster? What's the other one? Oh no, it's one.
It's
for
an Alpha
Vigilance.
Protector.
Yeah, Protector.
Yeah. So he's got, and welcome back, by the way, those of you who are joining us live. Sorry about the technical difficulty, but we're glad to have you back. In the meantime, all you missed was Jeremy Dezani developing his board even further with, I got to say, kind of mediocre creatures here, right?
That's what his deck is.
Yeah, nothing great. And Gabe fired off another shoulder to shoulder, so that's why he's got 2 counters on there. And here's a Chain Mage. This is actually more of his finisher rather than these mid-game engines or late-game engines that I was referring to earlier with the Malakir Soothsayer and the Ondu War Cleric, but he'll take it. Doesn't look great here, though. You know, trading off your Chain Mage for a random 2/2 is not great. It will hold that Alpha Protector.
Yeah, I mean,
take that.
it's the pair of 4/5s that's really holding the board down.
Totally.
A lot of his commandos hoping to soften Gabe up enough that an Alpha Strike can get around those 4/5s. But I mean, at this point, Jeremy basically loses 2 creatures every time he attacks. You gotta have a lot more creatures than your opponent when they're on 15, and that's true.
Did you notice if Jeremy has a Spark Mage's Gambit in his deck by chance, Randy?
Oh, that's a great question. How good would that be here?
Yeah, it would be a major blowout. Probably a game-winning play. Not that turn immediately, but the next one.
Yes.
He
does. He drafted one, and it's in the main deck.
Oh. That is business if he can find that. And remember, he's churned through a lot of his deck here.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like he's just drawing 1 card a turn. He's discarding all the lands almost. And Dezani's now doing combat math here.
Ah, there's the Searing Light. When he attacked into the 2/3s, he was sitting on Searing Light, and then suddenly they were 3/4s, and he was a lot less interested
Got a little
in
worse.
attacking into them.
Ah, it all makes sense. We knew he had something back then.
Yeah, no, when he stopped attacking, I was looking at his deck list and saw that he had Searing Light and suspected that might be it. Of course, the stream went down, so no way to verify that. I promise I said this.
I believe you. I also heard you say it. Wow. Another allied reinforcements here.
Yep.
And Jeremy Dezani still hasn't found a place to attack, though I don't expect that to last for much longer. At some point, I think he's going to start sacrificing random 2/2s and such to just get in huge chunks of damage.
Yeah,
This is
he's starting to be wide enough that that's worth it. He's
Yeah.
really hoping for Spark
Ooh,
Mage's.
there's the Soothsayer, though.
Yeah, Spark Mage's Gambit is now plan A.
Yeah, we were just talking about this as Gabe's late game plan. The only other piece of the puzzle that could really set him up is an Ondu War Cleric, but heck, he'll take a 4/4 blocker plus the ability to start drawing cards later. All right, that's kind of interesting. It was an Expedition Raptor off the top. I suppose it doesn't quite do enough here, though. The 4/5s are still just going to be bigger than anything, even with the counters on it.
Is that an Aeronaut, though?
He did have one earlier. It's probably in the pile somewhere.
Yeah, he's up to like 4 power worth of flyers, right? If he plays Raptor.
That would give him 4 power with the flyers, absolutely. And a huge attack here on the ground could, you know, maybe make Gabe block with the Chain Mage and trade. I don't know. That 4/4 may have swung it back in the other direction. And what we're watching here is Dezani figured that exact thing out. He says, okay, play this, do that.
How would you block if
Now
I
what?
attacked?
And this is him
What
counting.
would I get through? Does he get Stasis Snare in his hand?
Oh, is that what he has?
I think so.
Oh, you're totally correct. He just sort of sneaks it in under that
Cover
those
that
counters, and that is going to go away. That's a big play for Dezani. And what you see is him setting up exactly what he thinks the blocks are going to look like. And I was wondering why he only had 3 when there were 4 creatures. Now it makes sense. Is this lethal? Let's see. Block, block, block. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. That's lethal, right?
Is it really?
Maybe he can block something for 2 on the ground and only get in for 1 in the air, but it's close.
Dezani offering up the blocks that will give him lethal?
That actually could be the case, dude.
It is exactly 13 that Dezani claims he's getting through with. Oh, yeah. He's trying to get GCB to block the 1/4 instead of a 2-power guy. If GCB doesn't block the 1/4, you let the 1-power guy through. Taking 13 is a lot worse than taking 12.
Yes.
Nice try, Jeremy.
Though I got to say, I think this game plan is going to work for Dezani. Sure, his little ruse won't work, but...
Yeah, I mean, he'll lose some creatures here, but then next turn's Alpha Strike probably is
yeah,
lethal.
he's going to put Gabe to 1.
Right.
And he should have more creatures still than Gabe after
and
this
among other
sequence.
things, there's an Aeronaut.
Yeah, a lethal Aeronaut as well. So I like this attack from Dezani. All right, this is
On the way out,
take 2.
GCB's going to deal 2.
Yeah.
Not going to draw a card.
And, yeah, go to 1, Gabe Carleton-Barnes.
Yeah, it looks like Jeremy got wide enough.
He did.
1 stasis snare, cleared 1 blocker. 12 got through. Now there's only 2 blockers, and there's 7 creatures on Jeremy's side.
We saw kind of a pronounced top deck there from Gabe. I'm not sure if there's a card in his deck here. I'm assuming that players have been given deck lists as well, so he can't.
They've been given the pool. They don't know the list,
Ah.
but they know what cards were drafted.
Yeah, I think game 1's going to Dezani here pretty cleanly. Now, we do have another match going, by the way, as well. Remember, this is only our first semifinal. We're running them side by side. We've got Adam Jansen. He advanced past... Who did he play? He played against Alan's son in the quarters and defeated him. And Nick Slynn defeated... Yeah, so that's going to go game 1 to Dezani. And Nick Slynn defeated Chris Hewitt. So Nick is also... into the semis, and he's playing against Adam right now, in fact.
Did we get a game 1 result for that?
I haven't seen one come across our chat yet. Okay, it looks like they just finished their game
and
as
Brian
well,
David Marshall is walking over
Okay.
as if on cue. What's going on in the feature match area, Brian?
So it looks like those...
Now we're going to get Brian's mic turned on.
Okay. So it looks like Adam Jansen and...
You were over there in the feature match
I was
area,
over there,
right?
yeah. Adam Jansen and Slynn, they're going to game 3.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're going to game 3.
Wow, okay.
That game
didn't seem long,
Adam
the one
Jansen
we watched.
won a very, very quick game 1. Red-blue, again, just has a lot of really cheap creatures, a lot of surge cards, is really able to... and a lot of removal.
Okay.
But Slynn came out with just, big beaters and sowed havoc everywhere.
Can you give us a sense for the tone down there in the feature match area? Is it quiet and serious, or are they joking around? Or
It's pretty quiet and serious, and there's a lot of really concerned teammates for all 4 players.
Just
really
hovering.
just craning their necks. Like, the only sound you can hear are people like cricking their necks to try to get an angle around a camera or around a judge or something to see what's going on. A lot of very, very concerned people.
You can actually see him on our shot here
Yeah.
as we see Dezani. There's part of the group behind him on the left there of supporters for a lot of the players in the feature match and teammates.
That's the person right there behind the judge is Raph Levy. Of course, the Hall of Famer rooting on his teammate Jeremy Dezani.
And we know Gabe has his draft PDX teammates up here.
Yeah.
Are they looking at their watches, wondering what time they get home Monday morning?
Yeah.
They've drafted with Gabe. On a work night multiple times. They know what time they get home.
All right.
Is Gabe the Rashad of their group?
Gabe, he wins more than Rashad.
Oh, shots fired.
Jeez.
They just took Brian took his headset off and is now fleeing the coverage area.
All right, well, let's get
Didn't know
back
I
to
was gonna be
business
doing
here.
play-by-play on the commentary wars.
No kidding. All right, so getting back to business here, though, Gabe Carleton-Barnes finds himself down a game to the Pro Tour champion, former player of the year, Jeremy Dezani here.
You know it's his 10th Grand Prix top 8 already?
you know, he just tore it up.
He really did. That Player of the Year. It was just
He
every GP.
Every GP in Europe, he was there.
Yep. He won.
10 does surprise me, though.
Yeah, 10's a big number. You would have guessed like 5 or 6,
Yeah.
right? Maybe 7?
I would have guessed 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That would have been, and that would have, I kind of felt like that would have been generous.
He's only been around for like 3 years.
Yeah, it's only been 2-3 years that he's really been on the pro scene, but that he had an unbelievable year.
Yeah. He has 2 wins coming in, 9 top 8s coming in. The 1 Pro Tour top 8, which is the win at Pro Tour Theros. GCB's first GP top 8. That one surprised me a little bit. Many times.
This is his first GP top?
Yeah,
8?
no, as many times as he's qualified for the Pro Tour, as many ways as he's qualified for the Pro Tour.
That
I guess they've
shocks
all
me.
been PTQs.
Yes, he
It's
is
not that
really
many
the
ways.
master of a PTQ. I got to
King of the
say, though, I mean,
qualifiers.
look at him. He is ready to fight, getting all warmed up, getting that neck loose. He's ready to rumble. And I'll tell you, the quarterfinal match that you and Rich commentated between GCB and Eric Severson, it was incredible. And I got to say, both players played with a lot of composure because those games were insane. There was a lot of things to process, and I was really impressed by both of them.
Yeah, the way Severson almost won that last game was, I thought, great. Like, he made this really awkward attack because he kind of had to, because he knew things were going to get worse, and like managed to put enough pressure on that GCB had to trade off a Soothsayer, which is how Severson was able to climb all the way back into the game, almost win, almost deck him. Rich described it as one of the best comebacks he'd ever seen. And I think it was actually 2 or 3 of the best comebacks we've ever seen.
Yeah, all in one game. That was crazy. So yeah, on our side match, just for those of you that had missed it, it's 1 game apiece.
Yeah, they're going to game 3.
Yeah, between Jansen and Slynn. So they're already going to 3. They're off to the right. They had 2 games done before this one finished its first, and that game was pretty quick. It wasn't a particularly slow game. Normal, I would call it.
Neither of these players plays at a blistering pace.
That
All
is
right,
true.
here's game 3, off to the races.
All right, we get a chance to check in on this. And you
Adam
can see,
Jansen, the captain of Hot Sauce Games.
Yep.
In his second GP top 8, also top 8 at Detroit. Has a Pro Tour top 16 on his credit from Pro Tour Cons.
Nick Slind is actually from Washington, where you and I both live,
Yeah.
Andy. But I'm not as familiar with Nick. He lives in Spokane, which is about 6 hours away from Seattle on the other side of the state. But he's kind of the main limited guy at his area out there, is what I'm told.
He's the man.
He's the guy.
Yeah, 35-year-old software engineer from Spokane.
I thought you might have misread GCB's.
no,
It's very similar.
GCB's 36, totally different.
And he's a software engineer from Portland.
He writes it as software developer, but same thing.
Fair.
Looks like this will be Nick's first Pro Tour. Lists his previous accomplishment as a top 64 at GP Tacoma. So yeah, local ringer. I don't know what it is about Vancouver. All the local ringers just, send all the pros home without more top 8s. Hall of Famers losing in the last round. Local ringers claiming all the top 8 spots.
All right, why don't we jump back over to the first match? We're going to let this one go, but I got to keep up on the GCB versus Jeremy Dezani. We will keep you updated as to how this one goes, though. As this one is underway, you can see the Hedron crawler there from Gabe Carleton-Barnes, getting him off to a man advantage that he did not enjoy in the first game.
True.
He's got a core sky climber to start things off.
Yeah, this is a very different start.
Yeah, no 2-drop from Dezani.
And you remember GCB stumbled on mana last game. Took him away. He went to 3, but it took him a while to find 4 and really start deploying anything.
Yeah, he had to fire off 2 shoulder-to-shoulders just to try to find mana. It also helped, bolster his board, but... All right, so the 3-drop of choice for Dezani. Valakut Predator passes a turn back. Gabe's going to crack his Evolving Wilds and reveal that, no, he's not splashing. He's just got another Plains here.
Attack.
Are we going to see a natural endurance here? Yeah, and you
Yep.
can see that Dezani knew it was coming, and Gabe just sort of casually flicked it into his graveyard there. But a nice trade. He traded 1 mana for 3 there and didn't really do much else with his turn.
Yep.
Did Gabe mulligan? It feels like he did, right? He's already down to just a few cards in hand.
Yeah, these allied reinforcements are so good.
Yeah, that card's very solid.
I mean, it's not Relief Captain, but it is a very good white uncommon.
And it looks like he's going to go ahead and give flying. He drew an Ondu War Cleric for his turn, so he still gets to add to his board anyway.
Sure.
And Gabe's kind of taking the offensive here. He's not going to trade off for one of these tokens, so he may as well get in for 3 damage is his thinking. Oh, that wanted to be a land there for Dezani. He's got an Expedition Raptor, and if he would have
It was a Relief Captain, though, right?
I didn't see.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't
Was
a
it?
land, but it was a Relief Captain.
I'm going to assume it wasn't if he's attacking. I mean, you would...
Don't you want a 3rd creature first?
I guess so. What is his
Value.
other option? Oh.
2 more tutus. He's just all
Yep.
all white uncommons all the time.
And you're totally right, Randy. That was a Relief Captain. So now he's in full business mode. This is going to be really tough for Gabe to get out of. He's missing land drops. He just hasn't done anything very powerful here.
Doesn't even have a 3 toughness blocker this
No.
time around.
And Jeremy has. And that's going to get outclassed next turn anyway.
Right. Even 2/3's not going to be good enough when Relief Captain hits the table.
Yeah, and if he hits a land, he may even just play the Raptor. It just depends on how things pan out. But either
Sure.
way, Dezani's going to be in full-on driver's mode here. And I don't know that Gabe even has a card in his deck to get him
he
back.
needs a sweeper.
Yeah, he's got to have a planar outburst, and he doesn't have one.
The -2/-2 thing was floating around the draft. I don't know where it landed.
Mm.
Forget the name of the card.
That was Flame Tendrils, you mean?
Yeah.
The new one? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought Dezani should have de-drafted it.
All right, now this is kind of interesting. Here's General Tazri.
Okay. That's how we got into this
So-
mess in the first place. Jeremy creating a white drafter by passing it to GCB.
Were they sitting right next to each other in the draft?
1 player in between.
One player in between.
Who I guess must have taken the other red card out of that pack.
I'm not in the habit of passing General Tazri too often. She's
Fair.
great.
Gets an Arcana Assassin. Soothsayer's the best get. I don't know if that's in hand or if GCB just knows he doesn't really have time.
It's an interesting grab there, the Assassin. That's one of his worst cards. Just a mediocre 2/3.
I mean, it's solid against a bunch of tutus.
Yeah. He's going to be... He does need it here.
What he doesn't know, 5th land did come off the top for Dezani, so he's got his choice of support cards.
Yeah, so the options here...
Apparently, or do not involve dumping +1/+1 counters onto his creatures.
He must have a combat trick of some sort to get over General Tazri. Because, look, Gabe would prefer to not play into them, but he's just not at that luxury now. This is just way too much damage, so he's going to have to do some sort of block.
Right. Get away with maybe only putting Tazri out.
He could get away with that. He decides to go ahead and just go block.
Sure strike.
Sure strike, sure. Get in for 4.
Kill
and trade off.
Tazri. Trade there. 4 damage. 2 of it does come back with the cleric. Both the allies are dead, though. Both the ally friends.
That's right. That means that cleric is turned off. Now, we do know, of course, that he's got the assassin in hand. But Jeremy's really just biding his time here and not, kind of not going for the throat. Eldrazi aggressor
Yeah.
for him. Mediocre, doesn't really do much in his deck, but he needed a 3-drop.
Yeah, it's a body.
Yeah. And you know what
Picks
it
up
holds quite nicely?
+1/+1 counters.
Ding. Does he already have the Soothsayer?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
That
That
explains that, yeah. He had the mana for it when he played Tazri because they have the same cost, so it was kind of like, why are you getting a 2/3? Oh, right. You've already got your best ally in hand. The comeback kid here, Gabe Carleton-Barnes.
It's true.
I mean, I don't think he can.
We didn't think he could
I
in the
didn't think he
quarterfinals
could
either.
and he sure did. Remember, Gabe does not have a big sweeper. would assume that Jeremy's going to go for kind of the 1-2 punch here and probably go for the Raptor first and then go for the relief captain after, because he can put a counter on the Raptor with it, which just creates a bigger flyer for in case things go awry.
That makes sense to me as well.
Yeah, the Soothsayer, though, does a great job here.
4-4 is big.
I think Jeremy's just going to pass.
Sure.
And he does. Gain 2 life. Okay, back up to 16 for Gabe. He's not going to like what he sees next turn. He's got, looks like a pair of lands in that Nirkana Assassin in his hand here. All right, Nirkana Assassin. Gabe Carleton-Barnes passes the turn back. He's got his engine set up. He can draw cards or gain life as he sees fit. The question is, can Jeremy Dezani enable support here enough to smash Gabe Carleton-Barnes' board and then eventually him? Gabe's just hanging on by a thread here. He doesn't quite know it yet. I'm sure he has a sense for it, though. He drew an Alpha Protector, but he's just going to go for the relief captain here. Boom. God, this sequence is nasty. Expedition Raptor into relief captain with this board. And he'll put one on the Raptor as well. So now he's got a 4-4, a 4-5, and a 3-3 flyer. And he's going to get in with all of his big creatures. You know, Gabe can take a hit here.
Does not really have good blocks.
He kind of does. Like, the Nirkana Assassin can get Death
That's
Touch
right.
here.
On command, he can gain life. So he can trade Assassin for either of the ground creatures.
That's right. So probably the Eldrazi Aggressor, since it's a little bigger. That would have him taking 7, but also gaining 2 of it back. So he would only take 5 in this exchange, dropping him down to 11.
Sounds like it's a play.
I think he's got to do it. It still leaves him with the engine up as well with 2 allies for either the Soothsayer or the War Cleric, depending on if he needs to gain life or draw cards and how he sees that.
Mm-hmm.
Not this turn, but next turn. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that be the play here. Okay, so Gabe makes the block. And before damage, he's going to activate. Gain 2 life. That's going to give Death Touch. And so, yeah, down to 11. Okay, that could have gone worse for Gabe. Is Jeremy just going to play? I think he just can go land off a Protector here if he wants. That's exactly what he does, and he is out of gas, so Gabe needs some action and quickly. All right, let's let him take a draw step. BDM. You were down in the feature match area watching our other match. What's going on?
We have a finalist waiting for the winner of this semifinal match. It is Adam Jansen.
Adam Jansen from Hot Sauce Games is in the finals.
Can I interest you in casting Slip Through Space and Brutal Expulsion on a turn where Jorian Ruin Diver is in play?
I'm in for that.
Okay, I thought you might be.
Wow. Adam Jansen in to the finals. Now, he is going to be awaiting his opponent here. And boy, do we have a tough game here. Really intense match between Jeremy Dezani and Gabe Carleton-Barnes. Gabe's behind. He's been behind this whole game. And he has Ondu Rising. Is that going to get the job done here? Can he afford to attack is his first question. And if so, with what? If not, yeah, he didn't attack. He could not afford to attack. He's just going to have to pass a turn back here and leave another 4-4 up to probably trade with the token. So this game has now come down to, at least on the board, that Raptor. This has been a great game. Is it just Is it just Gabe? Does he just make these great, intense games happen? Because the way it looks like this flushes out right now is that if Jeremy, let's just say he attacked with everything, Gabe would survive quite cleanly, be able to eat a few creatures, and even gain some life here. So these are the good attacks that Jeremy has, the 4/4 and the 3/3 flyer. If he attacks here, Gabe's likely to trade the planes for the 4/4 on the ground and take 3 in the air. And then he has to start making the tough decisions about, do I lose a life and draw a card, or do I just gain 2 life, which really mitigates the threat in the air in a really clean way? He's going to gain 2, draw a card first, it looks like.
Information.
Yeah, he wants to know first. So he's made that decision already. He knows that in order to do this, he needs to draw a bunch of cards. And look, he's actually going to chump block here.
Mm-hmm. Well, to keep his 4/4. I mean, that's the reason the other creatures aren't coming
Yeah,
in.
you know, if he drew a card like shoulder to shoulder here, then he could get that planes up to 5/5 where it's really holding back everything, where the upside of keeping the Hedron Crawler is not nearly as high. But remember, Gabe's down to 7 and facing a 3/3 flyer. Pass. It's not going to take much for Dezani. We saw in the first game that Gabe had a similar scenario where he was sort of barely hanging on, and then one stasis snare just blew it out of the water.
Yep.
And Gabe's in a similar spot here.
There's no rummaging going on for Dezani, though. That's the big difference.
That is a huge difference. You're right. And it looks like Dezani's had enough waiting around. He's sending everything into the red zone here. This is going to force Gabe to gain the 2 life after he makes his blocks. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He would be dead in this scenario.
Dead doesn't sound good.
Right? Even with the life gain. Now, he does have 1 card in hand, and he can make different blocks if he wants.
Yeah, that block keeps everything alive. So that's the block he wants to be able to make.
Exactly. That's the block he wants.
Doesn't work unless he has a trick.
Trade there, gobble that up, block that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This works. This has him at 2. What is that card in his hand? He's locked these in his blocks. He's going to gain 2 life to go up to 9 and keep himself alive. He is taking 7 damage in this sequence as it sits. He could have
Dazzling light.
Dazzling Reflection.
Dazzling Reflection, sorry.
Dazzling Reflection as a combat trick that actually just kills the 4/4 here.
Yeah.
That was big time.
It's a solid trick.
Oh, my goodness. And there's an Ondu Greathorn, and this could be it for Gabe Carleton-Barnes. He's just got a couple of lands, extends the hand, and Jeremy Dezani moves to the finals. Welcome back to the finals, Jeremy Dezani. Great run by Gabe Carleton-Barnes. We will see him in Madrid. Congratulations to him on a great run. I know he's got a lot of fans out there. And fans of Jeremy Dezani have a lot to smile about here as he is heading into the finals where Adam Jansen awaits. We've got a nice little finals lined up for you guys here. Adam plays a ton of GPs, and it's going to be really fun. That's going to do it, though, for the semifinals here from Vancouver. Hey there, welcome back to the booth here at Grand Prix Vancouver. That's Randy Buehler. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. And I got to say, man, the intensity has ratcheted up pretty significantly once we hit the top 8. Now, that's normal, right? We're used to that. But I got to say, this one's even a little bit above normal for